Hello, BookTube. I want to go over some new arrivals with you, some stuff that's been opened off camera that you may be interested in. A lot of you may be more interested in a lot of these things than I am. Some of them I think I've mentioned before on this channel, and others not. And there's a variety, so it's good bookish stuff. It's good bookish stuff, which is, I hope, what you come to this channel for. Good bookish stuff. Sights of my baby bee. My little darling. How's my little darling? How's my little baby? She's sensing that the day's precipitation, which is a collection of sleet and snow, may be ending. She's starting to sense that. And I agree, it's starting to look that way. And if that's true, well, then we can shake off the doldrums and go for a nice long stroll out in the neighborhood so she can yell at people to pet her. But let's go through these and see what we see. It's always fun to talk about new and upcoming books, right? So first one is something that you will have seen today. I think I mentioned it again today on a Friday Reads, but I wanted to show you the physical copy. I wasn't showing any physical copies on my Friday Reads, but I wanted to show you the physical copy. This arrived at just the right time. This arrived when I was flat on my back at that point in a period of illness or discombobulation where you just don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And you need something to pick you up. And bless the folks at St. Martin's. They sent me something that picked me up. A romance. They sent me a romance. Those of you who are new to the channel, I get a lot of books in the mail because I'm a professional book reviewer. But I confess, the two things of joy that I get in the mail, I get new Penguin Classics in the mail, and I get romance novels in the mail. That is just a joy. That is just a dream come true. And I got this one. This is One Duke Down by Anna Bennett. There's a lovely Regency cover there. This is a modern Regency, as you can tell by the fact that she's wearing a gown that would only have been allowed for royalty, and even then on state occasions, it certainly wouldn't have been laid out on the heath, and he's half naked. So you know that it's a modern Regency romance, but I still, my heart belongs to the old-style Regency romances of Signet and Zebra, that have historical verisimilitude. They very much read like something that might have happened in the real Regency period, where this would not. But that's okay. My heart belongs to those, but I still love all Regency romance novels. And I love Anna Bennett's work. Just think it's fantastic. So let's go over this. Miss Poppy Summers is determined to keep her family's fishing business afloat. Her poor widowed father has fallen ill. Her foolhardy brother has moved to London, leaving her precious little time to pursue her own dreams. The very last thing Poppy needs is to find tangled in her nets a dangerously attractive man with a head wound who claims he's a duke. She actually fishes a duke out of the sea. Andrew Keene is the Duke of Hawking, but he's having a devil of a time convincing his fiery-haired rescuer of that fact. The truth is, someone in Belhaven wants to kill him, and he intends to find out who, if he can persuade Poppy to help him. Just wonderful. That element of whimsy is in every Anna Bennett novel, and I just treasure it. She manages to pull it off really well, and this is something that calls itself a Rogues to Lovers novel. I can't for the life of me remember if there was another one. If there's been earlier Rogues to Lovers novels. Maybe Sarah at the Bookish Knitter would remember. When I go over to my romance bookshelf, I will go looking for Anna Bennett. They should all be together, and then I'll know. But you can tell already from that plot description that she's going to indulge, almost certainly, in a favorite pastime of romance authors who are writing books in series, which is to give every character a romance novel of their own. That brother who's wasting his time in London is destined to have a novel of his own. But this sounds like fun. Of course it does, and it hit me at just the right time. Then we have some lovely-looking science fiction from Tor. This is by Annalee Newitz, and it is called The Terraformers. And it comes with a massive amount of blurbs. The blurbs on this thing are amazing. It's not just, you've got James Corey, John Scalzi, N.K. Jemisin, Martha Wells, Kim Stanley Robinson blurb this thing. It's not just that, but it's also got starred reviews from Publishers Weekly, Booklist, and Library Journal, which is kind of amazing. Those of you who don't, those are industry journals. Those three are industry journals. Also, Kirkus is the big one that's not listed here. Maybe Kirkus didn't read the book or didn't like it or didn't give it a starred review. But Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, Booklist, and Library Journal are industry reviews, meaning they get the books ahead of time and they review them ahead of time. Whereas all other journals, whether it's news outlets as big as the New York Times or as small as Big Canoe News in northern Georgia. All other venues get review copies ahead of time. But there's a kind of agreement, an unspoken agreement, not to review them until around the time of their release. It's viewed as horrible bandwagon jumping to sing the praises of something weeks or even months ahead of its publication date. And also, it does the publisher no good because the reader will have forgotten that review. And also, it's viewed as ultimately dirty pool to bash a book long before it can so-called speak for itself, long before it's in the public. So in the normal review world, every newspaper, every magazine, you don't really do that. You absolutely don't do that. But the industry journals build their reputation on doing that. Their reviews are always short, always to the point, and they are designed to help with buying decisions for libraries, school libraries, university libraries, all sorts of institutions look at those things. And the reviewers for those journals don't have to give a starred review. They don't have quotas. Their editors don't tell them what to star. The star comes from the reviewer. The viewer reads, let's say, reviews 2 books a month for Publishers Weekly, or 2 books a month for Kirkus, or 10 books a month for Kirkus, or 30 books a month for Kirkus, or that's clearly impossible. But no matter what, they're reviewing these books. They've got their head down in their feed in the barn, and if they encounter one that genuinely stands out, that is not the usual stuff that they read, then they tell their editor, I want this as a star. I want to give this book a star. So it's coming straight from the critic. It's not mandated. And there's no quota. You can go years without giving a star to any book that you review for one of these journals if you want to. You'll never hear a peep from your editor about it. You might hear a peep from your editor if you were starring every book you review, but you won't hear a peep from them if you're starring none. These journals pride themselves, market themselves on being stern but fair. So to get 3 starred reviews, that is incredible. The reviewers don't know each other. That is incredible. So it comes loaded with blurbs, and it's about here. I won't block the beam. I should show you this beautiful cover. That is just lovely. Because it's a story about terraforming a planet. For those of you who are not science fiction fans, don't watch Arthur Isaacs. This is the process of taking a planet and changing its physical features to be close enough to Earth so that humans can live on it without spacesuits and extensive life support. That's what it means to terraform a planet. So going to the moon and putting domed cities there, or underground cities, is not terraforming anything. What that would mean is that you go to, for instance, Venus and start the multi-generational cycle of siphoning off all that carbon dioxide, of decreasing the runaway greenhouse gas effect, of getting rid of all the sulfuric acid in the clouds. That would be the way you would take. It's a long process to terraform a planet. That's what this means. Another lovely U.S. cover. That is just wonderful. So let's see here. Destry's life is dedicated to terraforming Sask E. So Destry is our main character, and Sask E is the planet. As part of the environmental rescue team, she cares for the planet and its burgeoning ecosystems as her parents and their parents did before her. It would very much be a generational thing. But the bright, clean future they're building comes under threat when Destry discovers a city full of people that shouldn't exist, hidden inside a massive volcano. And that puts a halt to terraforming. If you encounter indigenous life, you can't terraform the planet unless you're a monster, or Klingon, using the Genesis device. As she uncovers more about their past, Destry begins to question the mission she's devoted her life to, and must make a choice that will reverberate through Sask E's future for generations to come. So not only a fascinating subject, and not only a very pretty hardcover, but loaded to the gills with blurbs. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Usually it does. I'm not throwing my own profession under the bus. If you've got a bunch of people singing the praise, if it were only the other science fiction authors who were blurbed on this thing, well, maybe I might doubt. I don't think there's much you could ask of M.K. Jennison or Martha Wells that would cause them to lie about a book. I think they'd probably be genuinely impressed, but you don't know who's talked to who at conventions, who's cried on whose shoulders about something completely unconnected to books, who owes who a favor. You don't know that. In the writing world, you don't know that. But if it's got 3 starred reviews from 3 of the 4 industry journals, that's impossible to ignore. That's 3 critics who do this stuff very dispassionately, who are saying, this is not only good, it's standout good. So, It's a little science fiction for you. Then we have a book that I was pleased to see it. I saw it first on BookTube. I saw it on Sarah, the Bookish Knitters channel. Where I keep mentioning her channel on this channel. She's another booktuber. She concentrates on mysteries, especially romance, especially category romance. She's delightful. If you haven't gone and subscribed to the Bookish Knitter, you really should. But you know, I'm starting to think that the fact that I've mentioned her channel so many times means it's probably time for us to do another video chat. Another where we just chat about things. It's probably time that we do that. We should probably do it on a regular basis. But she just held this up. She got it from Book of the Month Club. I got it from the publisher because I'm not gonna pay Book of the Month Club for new releases when they're gonna send them to me anyway. This is by Kate Alice Marshall, and it's What Lies in the Woods. And actually, given the reach and influence of Sarah's channel, I don't know why she isn't bombarded with more review copies of her own. I'll have to email her about all of these things. But anyway, this is a thriller. So what have we got here? Naomi Shaw used to believe in magic. 22 years ago, she and her two best friends, Cassidy and Olivia, spent the summer roaming the woods, imagining the world of ceremony and wonder, the goddess game. The game became an obsession and a refuge for the three girls. That sanctuary was suddenly shattered when Naomi was attacked. Miraculously, she survived her 17 stab wounds and lived to identify the man who hurt her. The girl's testimony put away a serial killer wanted for murdering 6 women. They were heroes, and they were liars. I confess, that kind of hooked me. Because, you know, you expect that if it's a serial killer who's killed lots of people, he's probably guilty of this new crime. And it's going to be a hard pill to swallow to find him innocent. But the author has done, the Dust Jacket copywriter has done their job, because I'm now interested in this thing. Don't have a date on this. I don't have a sheet for it, but I'm assuming since Book of the Month Club customers are already getting it, that it must be out already. Then we'll do with a little novel. Let's do a little novel here. When does this come out? June 6th. This comes out June 6th. This is by Shannon Bowering, and it is The Road to Dalton. This is from Europa Editions. Another fairly nice American cover. I don't know what's going on here. My favorite little rants to do about American covers being ugly. I'm being cheated left and right there. Virtually every American cover I've seen for 2023 is really good. Best friends who become lovers, a doctor in crisis, a young couple struggling in the wake of a traumatic birth. These are a few of the inhabitants of small-town Dalton. This book illustrates the inner workings of these families in northern Maine as they grapple with an unthinkable decision made by one of their own. It wasn't to invite Deb back to northern Maine. They're all paying that price now. Every person's path is a reflection of the landscape around them. Unchanging, quiet, full of equal parts hope and despair. Against the backdrop of the 90s, okay, so this is set in the past, the people of Dalton learn how their problems, both small and large, reveal a deeper understanding of the lives of their neighbors and remind us that no one is exactly who you think they are. I am exactly who you think I am. Aren't you? It's kind of odd. I guess novels need to traffic in that, right? But I would argue that most people are pretty much exactly who you think they are. But anyway, the author currently lives in Maine, and this Road to Dalton is her first book. Great, fantastic. I love debut novels. I love the clean slate feel of them, even if I don't end up liking them. I still love that feeling. Then we'll move on. This thing's an oddity. This is intriguing. I'm looking forward to delving into this. This comes out in early March. It's called The Forest, A Fable of America in the 1830s by Alexander Nemerov. Another beautiful American cover. I don't know what's going on here. This seems weird in a good way, in a way that it seems like the author could have written an easy version of this book and decided not to. Set amid the glimmering lakes and disappearing forests of the early United States, The Forest imagines how a wide variety of Americans experience their lives. Part truth, part fiction, and featuring both real and invented characters, the book follows painters, poets, enslaved people, that's slaves, farmers, artisans, living and working in the world still made largely of wood. Some of the historical characters, such as Thomas Cole, Margaret Fuller, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Fanny Kemble, Edgar Allan Poe, Nat Turner, are well known, while others are not. But all are are creators of private and grand designs. The forest unfolds in brief stories. Each episode reveals an intricate lost world. Characters cross paths or go their own ways, each striving for something different, but together forming a pattern of life. For the author, the forest is a description of American society, the dense and discontinuous woods of nation, the foliating thoughts of different people, each with their separate shade and sun. Isn't that great? Doesn't that make you want to read this? Through vivid descriptions of people, sights, smells, and sounds of Jacksonian America, illustrated with paintings, prints, and photographs, the forest brings American history to life on a human scale. Sounds audacious. Let's see. Oh, it is full of illustrations. Hi, I didn't notice that the first time. Oh my! There you have. There is Fanny Kemble, but you not only have that, you also have photographs like that. Is that by the author? I'd have to look at the credits. I wonder if some of these photos are by the author. How incredible! Okay, great. And the author is a professor of the humanities at Stanford University. He's written other books. Wow, this seems... I don't know. I read this originally. I thought, that sounds productively weird. So, this comes out in early March. You can pre-order it or request it to give it a try yourself. We'll explore it together. Then we have this thing here. It's another finished copy. This is coming out in early February. Hi, baby. How you doing? This is The Hidden Company That Trees Keep. Life from Tree Tops to Root Tips by James Nardi. I'm going to block my yawning baby. This is all about the world that a single tree is. You can tell a lot about a tree from the company it keeps. James Nardi guides you through the innermost unseen world that trees share with a wondrous array of creatures. With their elaborate immune responses, trees recruit a host of allies as predators and parasites to defend against uninvited advances from organisms that chew on leaves, drain sap, or bore into wood. Microbial life thrives in the hidden spaces of leaf scales, twigs, and bark, while birds, mammals, insects benefit from the most visible resources trees provide. In return, animals help with pollination, seed dispersal, and recycling of nutrients. This book blends a marvelous storytelling with beautiful illustrations and the latest science that reveals how the lives of trees are intertwined with those of their diverse companions. And this is full of illustrations, just full of them. Virtually every page has just tons of illustrations. And baby, don't lick, don't get into the zone. This is on my mind. Baby, Frida, don't do that. She gets into this zen zone of just endlessly licking. I guess it doesn't really hurt her. I don't want her licking all of the dyes there. Who knows what that'll do to her digestive system. But this got to me just as I was noticing that neighbors a few blocks over had a big old tree cut down. Took all day to do. It was not rotted. It was not a danger. They did it just to clear a yard space or something obscene like that. Who knows how many lives are in that tree? I know a family of raccoons lived in it. They probably scampered when the workmen started at dawn. The workmen probably scornfully laughing as they were dispossessing a whole family that has nowhere to go. Every other space nearby will be fiercely defended by other people. The babies in that family will die. The parents might be able to fight their way to some new nook or cranny. But my heart broke when I saw that. I saw it when the work started. I saw it late in the afternoon when the whole thing was down and in sections of blocks. And later on, I'm sure that I will see that cleared area. Just a gut punch. Just a gut punch. But I have read so much on trees and their lives. There was a series of really good studies about, for instance, in really tall trees. Sometimes they'll be host to different species that don't ever go below or above a certain band of height. So they don't even know the rest of the tree is there. I just think it's utterly fascinating. Can't wait to read this. It's coming right up, so I probably will read it soon. But I wanted you to know about it. Then we have some books that are further on down the line. Again, I want you to know about these things so that you can request them at your library. If they look interesting to you, you can put them on an Amazon wish list or make a note of them or whatnot. And we've got another debut novel here. We'll do another debut novel, then we'll finish with a couple of big chunkers that Steve is very excited about. This is a debut novel that comes out in May, and this is Close to Home by Michael McGee. A very distinctive cover there. Very nice. Totally, this cover would be 90% less effective if it was the same photograph right side up. Just goes to show somebody paid attention to this. Let's see here. This is McGee's novel begins with a young man named Sean punches a stranger at a house party in Belfast. That's in Belfast. That's known as small talk. It's an act of violence that ripples outward from the squatter's flat Sean shares with his mate to the courtroom with its holier-than-thou judge to the graveyards where he'll complete his mandated community service alongside other lost boys and men to the forgotten streets of Belfast, the ones he's walked 1,000 times. He and his circle of friends struggle to make ends meet, but at least they know how to have a good time, turning tricks, doing gear, until history comes seeping in. Violence touches every facet of their lives, inflicted by their bosses, the state, and their parents, scarred by their own histories. Cast over it all is the long shadow of the troubles, felt but never spoken. Through it all is Sean's voice, acutely observant, confessional, magnetic, indifferent, speaking with remarkable urgency. Okay. Drawn from life and written with immediacy of thought, Close to Home interrogates with urgency the ways in which the state, Brexit, EU, law enforcement, works its way into our private lives and psyches. The author is one of the few to survive this sort of upbringing, let alone become a novelist with as much talent as is presented here. Okay. No. No, the author is one of tens of, or even 20s of thousands of people who survived. That's, what on earth are you saying? Are you saying that the streets of Belfast have a 90% mortality rate? They don't. No, the author is a rarity in having become a novelist, because novelists are rare. Not a rarity in surviving. A portrait of modern masculinity, close to home, like Nico Walker's Cherry. Oh, Cherry was an interesting book. Very good, very effective. A bit of a testy set to with the author, but we worked things out. and he must be overjoyed that it became a movie. Or even Ben Lerner's The Topeka School. This book is about fathers and sons, violence and trauma, and under it all, the courage to love and to survive. Okay, and that sounds really good. This thing seems to have been lauded in the UK. One thing that is very conspicuously missing from that description is whether or not young Sean is gay. If he's turning tricks and he's living with a mate, and this novel is about, what was that again? The courage to love? I'm thinking he probably is, and that if that's true, I'm wondering why the pub sheet doesn't say so. I mean, especially why wouldn't the pub sheet say so in the wake of Shuggy Bang? Why on earth? That would not be a weakness of the book. That would be a huge selling point. But it could be that it's not true. This is debut fiction, like I mentioned with, what was it again? The Road to Dalton. I love debut fiction. Always think it's fascinating. Love to get in when I don't have any axes to grind against the author. You can make fresh mistakes. You can cheese me off without any baggage. Or you can enchant me. Every once in a while, that happens. Ben Lerner never did. But Nico Walker certainly did. I don't seem to be on Ben Lerner's wavelength, the Topeka School or the Tosha Station. I'm one of the only people who's read those books and just did not see what was so amazing about them at all. They're bad, but I didn't see it at all, the hype train with him. And it isn't all mindless hype. There are 3 critics that I'm thinking of here who have mindlessly hyped him, but there are also 4 critics that wouldn't mindlessly hype anybody with a gun to their head. One of them happens to be my best friend, so my best human friend anyway, and they all loved it. They've all loved Ben Lerner. So it's never worked for me, but Nico Walker did. And when a book like that charms me, it is wonderful to have an author with just unsullied credit in the bank of Steve. That is just a wonderful feeling. Of course, it never lasts. Seldom lasts. I would say almost never lasts. If it is not going to last with Marilyn Robinson, it's not going to last with anybody. But I should make a list sometime. I should do a video sometime of authors who've never had a debit in the Bank of Steve. Wouldn't be a long list, that's for sure. But anyway, let's get to the two big hefty chunkers here to finish out. The first one that we'll do is March. It is a joyous event from FSG. Pre-order your copy now. I would say you're going to want this. Almost anybody listening to me is going to want some part of this. This is a gigantic collection of the translations of Seamus Heaney. Look at the size of this thing. This is all the translations that Shea Heaney did in his lifetime. So it's the whole of his translation of Beowulf is in this volume, but also everything else that he did in a bunch of different languages, a bunch of different time periods. He did a book of Virgil. It's all in here. Just page after page after page of his translations. Isn't that amazing? So wonderful. I wonder if I have, I don't have a sheet for this, but I could read you a little about it. Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf, published in 2000, was immediately hailed as an undisputed masterpiece. And I agreed. It is an undisputed masterpiece. It is a masterpiece not just as a translation of Beowulf, but as a work of translation just in general. If you look at, if we restrict ourselves to translations of anything into English, as opposed to translations of things into other languages or from other languages, if we look at just things translated into English, there's a list of great translations. Right? I mean, there's one translation of Montaigne that is just great. There's one North's Plutarch is widely recognized as a great translation. Regardless, let's not talk about scholastic precision here. Let's talk about whatever the art of translation is, that weird dance that it does between fidelity to the original and ability to thrill the audience that's monoglot. Whatever that dance is, however you characterize, the different scales of it, when you write it, when you do a masterpiece of that dance, it's easily observable. It's easily knowable. What's her name? Oh my God. Grossman? Her translation of Don Quixote? Immediately people knew. This is not just the translation of the moment. This is a towering work of translation. This is a towering example of what translators do. I have a whole bunch of candidates along those lines, but I think you know what I mean. And Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf was immediately recognized as one of those. Not just the best translation of Beowulf, but a great translation. A few years after his death in 2013, Heaney's translation of Virgil's Aeneid, Book 6, created a similar stir. Oh, okay, well, that's a bit of wishful thinking. It didn't. Most critics were a little baffled by it. It's a slight little thing. I think we saw it on this channel. Oh, no, we didn't. 2013. I did get it. I got it for Open Letters Monthly. But we didn't. I wasn't talking to you at this time. It was a tiny little thing, tiny little green thing. It was just one book of the Aeneid. Most critics had no idea what to do about it. A lot of major journals commissioned pieces on it anyway, including some long pieces, but they ended up talking about Virgil's Aeneid and the role that Book 6 plays. Book 6 is absolutely pivotal in the Aeneid. So a lot of people, were able to windify about that, but they weren't. They were largely mystified about why Heaney would do this one book. Now, for the first time, the poet, critic, and essayist translations are gathered in one volume. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, well, I'm thrilled that this is coming out, so I will be reviewing it when the time comes. And then the last of the books here for new arrivals, this is also a big chunker. I'm also thrilled by this. Absolutely, this author's credit in the Bank of Steve could not be higher. This is a big fat biography, one of the first major big fat biographies of 2023 to cross my desk anyway. This is Jonathan Eigg, and this is his biography of Martin Luther King. Another big fat thing. Do we have a page count on this? You'd think you'd tell me, right, since you're the pub sheet. This is going to be almost 700 pages. And this I praised this author before for his biography of Muhammad Ali, which was great, absolutely great. And this, I can't imagine that it won't be great, and it will certainly be appealing to readers who are fascinated by Dr. King but aren't really up for the other really high-profile biography of him, which is 3 volumes this long. This is just the 1 volume. that's going to be appealing. I'm not slighting those readers at all. I'm totally on their side. Not everybody has the time or commitment to do a 3-volume biography of anybody. I love them, but I'm a professional reader. That's all I do. This is going to appeal, I think, to a lot of people. I am certainly going to read it with great interest. I find it unbelievable that this will not be great. And if it is great, if it's as great as the book on Muhammad Ali, then the thing that makes it great is that, at least that I saw in the Ali biography, is that this author is perfectly okay writing with just a clear, open eyes about his subject's shortcomings. He makes the very wise decision. He's entirely right that being frank about the shortcomings, instead of saying they don't exist, enhances the stature of a truly great person. In the end, those things enhance the stature. I'm certainly hoping that that turns out to be true in this book. Dr. King had lots of flaws, lots of them. If you shy away from them, you make a weaker book. And almost every one of these great figures, certainly Muhammad Ali, would have said, if you'd gone to him, in the prime of his life and mental health, and said, which treatment do you want? He'd have thrown you out the door. He said, don't you dare write a saint's life of me. And Dr. King the same way. He would. Same thing is true with, for instance, Jack Kennedy. Would never in a million years have agreed to any of the hagiographies that have appeared about him. He would have said, well, he would have had a word for it. He had one particular word for things like that. It was a filthy word, and he said it in a particularly cutting and filthy way. The only exoneration I have for him is that, believe it or not, and maybe you will believe it, he learned how to say it in that way from his oh-so-refined high society wife, who could say that word in a way that would make a stevedore's toes curl. Anyway, let's see what we have here. Okay, so this is Jonathan Ives. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm going to say I because it's Geiger counter. Jonathan Ives. This is his first book since Muhammad Ali was published in 2017. Okay, and I praised the daylights out of Ali in 2017. Praise the daylights out of it. If you see it at a used bookstore, grab it, even if you're not interested in boxing. Especially want to stress that. When you're in the hands of a good biographer, you do not need to be interested in the subject. That's the key that I want to stress here. Let's see here. Page-turning, deeply researched, and expertly crafted. This book is the first biography of King to draw on important news sources, including, among other things, the thousands of FBI documents that have been released in recent years, audio tapes recorded by Coretta Scott King after her husband's death, an unpublished memoir written by King's father, and thousands of pages of material that belong to L.D. Reddick, who served as King's personal archivist, and is also built on hundreds of interviews with people who knew King. This is an authoritative and revealing new take on Martin Luther King's life and legacy, destined to become an essential King biography for the next generation. Well, I and my fellow critics will be the judge of that, Seymour, but I understand your heart's in the right place. And certainly, in this case, I'm willing to go a long way down that boardwalk because this author's credit could not be higher in the Bank of Steve. So I wanted you to know that this was coming out, a major new biography. Actually, I consider both of these things to be very major in their own ways. Just terrific. So there you go. There are some new arrivals. Do we dare to do a Steve Pyramid? We have the Terraformers. What happens if your whole family's dream of terraforming a planet is upended by the worst possible discovery? What do? Can't wait. Then we have What Lies in the Woods, a thriller. We have the hidden company that trees keep. You'll never look at your backyard trees the same way again. We have The Forest. Sounds like a really interesting experiment in sort of fiction history. We have The Road to Dalton, a debut novel. We have another debut novel, Close to Home. We have Jonathan Ives' biography of Martin Luther King. And we have the collected translations of Seamus Heaney. And we have One Duke Down by Anna Bennett, who is utterly reliable. When she writes a romance, she's reliable. You're going to like it. So there you go. That is a nice variety of new arrivals for you to let you know, to tempt your taste buds on what's coming. See, that's all I do on this channel is just tempt you with books. I am, those of you who might be new to the channel, older people on the channel can tell you, they can tell you what my customers in bookstores have known, used to know quarter of a century ago. I am very, very dangerous to book buying budgets. Or in this case, for BookTube, book buying bans. I'm very dangerous to those guys. Because I love looking at all these things. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.